All right. So, welcome everyone. It is wonderful to have our guests here today from Revolution Events. I'm thrilled to have Erin Cermak, CEO of Revolution Events, and Katie Kirby, Creative Director of Revolution Events. Revolution has, they're an amazing company who does unique and creative party rental designs and custom furniture rentals. Anything that you can think of, they can create it. It's pretty impressive. They have a massive warehouse in outside of Baltimore, and that was 100,000 square feet, correct? With approximately 100 employees.
Yeah.
Probably some of that has changed, but we're talking today. I really wanted to talk to you guys because I know that you have both been in the industry for a long time, that this is not the first storm that you've weathered, and that you all might have a pretty unique perspective and some insight on insight into what it really takes to be a resilient business person during this time, because this is really challenging for so many people. And I think that, if there is this sense of resilience and, kind of working through things, even though some things we may not be able to work through, there may be some, major setbacks, but I just thought that you guys would have a great perspective on that. So I guess we'll start with, how are you guys doing? How are you holding up during this time? How has your life changed? And anything that you want to share about that?
Well, life is good. I mean, relatively. We're both tan, so there's that. I guess for me, I always wished for a staycation, so I guess I got it in a big way. And I'm really sorry, everyone. I should have wished on a smaller level. But I am moving at a slower pace, and I have more time for, exercise, all the things that I've always tabled because of my job and the crazy schedule and whatnot. But I have my time for healthy dinners and time with the kids. And I have the, sort of the silver lining gift of a summer with my oldest kid before he leaves for college in August. So that's been excellent, and he's doomsday prepped with me, and he's been with me every step of the way. So it's like all those things have been good, but the whole other side is a lot. So in general, it's been less frenetic. It's been less crazy. It's just been less.
Yeah. How about you, Katie? How's life doing? You're somewhere, you're not in the Maryland area right now, are you? You're
No.
traveling.
Yeah. So, I have, I'm used to event stress, like event and production is very stressful. It's in a very stressful career. I think it's, always in like the top, 10. And I think it's Forbes that does the list or something.
It's
And,
and number 5 is active duty military.
oh, okay. So perfect. They're saving lives, creating a bat mitzvah. But yeah, but anyways, it's a really stressful industry, and you're always deadline oriented, and you're dealing with multiple facets coming all the time. And so you would think that for me that this slower time would be a lot less stressful. I have an 18-month-old, and I am so lucky to be able to spend time with him, and this much time. I mean, it really is a gift. But I can say in the opposite way, I find this more stressful than any events that I never even thought like I could be more stressed out in my job. I take that very well, but it's a stressful job, and this is a different kind of stress, and it is far more weighing on me. Like, I am thankfully this is a headshot, but I've gained a lot of weight. It's my first button that happens. I'm not one of those lucky people that loses weight when they get stressed. So I've, gained weight, and I've, I go on these roller coasters of ups and downs, and I've actually still kept busy. Like I've had projects, where other people really haven't had anything. I've had a lot of projects that I've been working on since this started, but it's not my normal amount of work. It's not what I'm used to. It's a different kind of work, and everything feels like it keeps changing. And I don't know when the end is. Like I said, we're a deadline business. So if you told me January 1, like we'll be good, like back in it, great. But then I start looking at the news and I'm like, oh my God, is this going to go on longer? And I just, start to panic. But I am very, very lucky. I have a beach home and I'm with my family for the entire summer, and I'm working from here. And I have a tan and I'm Irish, so that means something. So you can see I've been spending a lot of time outdoors and coping as everybody is. And the biggest thing is everyone I know is healthy. I don't know anybody touched by COVID yet, personally. And I'm with my entire family, and everyone's healthy. And that is the most important, because if anybody was sick, I really wouldn't care that I wasn't working. I would care about that person's health. So,
Yeah,
all in perspective, right?
it is. It's all perspective. It's all relative to, how we're taking things on. I know for me, it's been a roller coaster as well. And, there've been highs and lows, and sometimes that's weeks, sometimes that's days,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that's hours. It just depends on kind of the nature of the day. So, and so if someone were to look at your website, they would see that Revolution Events has been through, a long history of being in business. And I'm curious to know, how you, and either of you can answer this, how this is not your first rodeo. This is not the first time that there's been, a business setback. How have you approached these challenges when they've come up in the past?
Well, lucky for me, I've had some good timing in the past. I guess my luck has run out, but I didn't own the company when the last recession hit. In fact, I was in the process of starting, the early stages of this company. I had sold Fandango, and so I was kind of lucky that I wasn't part of that. I had sold the company right before 9/11 and all those challenges. So I helped with, negotiating through all that, but it wasn't nearly as stressful because I was just working for the company and I wasn't the owner at the time. So I've had some good timing, luck, I will say, but this one is a doozy. This one is just like, we went from busy season to 0 in 3 days, so it's a lot. And so we're trying to be very strategic, and we're trying to figure it out. And, it's hard because the rules and the playing field just keep shifting, and then you get like a little lifeline, and then that keeps being yanked in and out and which way. So it is hard, but we are playing the long game, and we have every intention of, being here next spring when we think, that's kind of when we think it'll come back.
And if you don't mind sharing, as much as you feel comfortable about some of maybe the difficult decisions you've had to make over this time, and kind of how that's been for you, either one of you.
Yeah, I could speak to that. I mean, so Fandango, Rev, everyone in between, Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, Great Drape, we've had a whole mix. We've been in business all together for over 30 years. And this business was built on the hard work and the passion and the dedication of our staff. And a lot of our staff have been with us almost 30 years. And so in early March, when we had to make a decision, because we could see the writing on the wall, when, we were getting cancellations right and left, we had to make a decision on, who would be kept. And we let the majority of our staff go in a very tear-soaked meeting. It was terrible because these people are our family and our friends, and we promised them that we would fight and keep this company and we would get them back as fast as we could, because we're no one except for our people, you know, like we would be nothing without our people. And so that was terrible. I mean, probably the worst, one of the worst things I've ever had to go through, because it's just, you know, it has certainly affected us, but it, you know, is basically crushing everybody's life, you know, and what they were used to and their norm. And that was all kind of terrible. And then, you know, it's just all the crazy decisions that we've been forced to make in this, with so little data and so little information, you know, like our insurance for the company was up at the end of April. And so I had my insurance broker, and she was calling me, and she's like, okay, well, I need to know how much, what your income's going to be next year, you know, for April to April. And I was like, well, how can you even expect me to answer that? You do, wait, I was like, wait, okay, you tell me when Maryland's going to open back up, and then maybe I could tell you, you know, how much we're going to do. And she's like, well, of course I can't tell you that, because on April 30th, we were shut, you know, we were shut, and there was no hope of a phase one on the horizon. And it's like, I, you know, so I came up with a number that was like 25% of what we had done the year before, just because I had to tell them something, you know. And as you know, as it goes with insurance, if I'm wrong and the number's higher, then I get to pay more. But if I'm wrong and the number's lower, I don't get anything back. So, you know, it's just like, I really felt that it was like terribly wrong. I was like, how about if I decide for 3 months and then you come back and ask me again, you know, which would be, I think, more in keeping with the environment and the atmosphere. But you didn't care about my thoughts so much.
Yeah, that's tough. Those are, you know, those are gut-wrenching kind of benchmarks to kind of put ahead, and, you know, not feel like there's, you know, an answer to any of those questions. So I can imagine that that's challenging.
And I can speak to personally, you know, just like not in a company-wide way, you know, my wife and I were making those decisions on our own, you know, finances. This is, you know, this is what our life is set up to make. And we all know unemployment is not nearly, even with a boost, not nearly, you know, getting that. So, you know, we had just moved into this new big house. Do you put it on the market and just, you know, or do you stay, you know, do you have the long game with your own personal finances too, and you know, truly have to just really invest in yourself, and you know, and so that's, you know, that all is, those kind of decisions are gut-wrenching personally. And you know, in 2008 I was laid off from my event job. I had just started with Raffinelli Events in Boston, and I was only there 3 or 4 months. I made great friends and great connections while there, but they lost, you know, I don't even know, majority of their business in you know, a couple weeks when the market crashed. And so they, you know, had to do the same thing, let, you know, half of their staff go, and I was one of them. And I remember just feeling awful, you know, and just feeling like a failure, even though, you know, it was a layoff. It meant nothing about who you were, but you weren't the one being kept, and you just take it personally. So then even if you know that it's not, you do take it personally. And then this time around, I'm the one in the room, you know, deciding who we keep and who we can't keep. And let me tell you, it was actually worse. And I know that that sounds selfish or whatever, but it actually was, because I remembered what it felt like to be in that room and be the one told that, you know, you no longer have a spot. And I just, you know, it was a very surreal experience that here we were, you know, 12 years later. And now, you know, it was in my hands. Not all, obviously, I'm not the owner like Erin and Jamie, her brother, but, you know, definitely one of the heads of the company. So I just think that it, you know, it was, you know, gut wrenching, as you know, it said.
Yeah. Well, okay. On the brighter side, in spite of all of these gut-wrenching decisions and difficult challenges. I know that you guys have really focused on being innovative and creative and trying new things. And I've been following closely on Instagram the things that you've been, creating and what you've been putting out there. It's inspiring to see that you guys are, thinking outside the box, literally, and doing something different. And I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about that process. What was that like for you guys? And how did you, were you just like literally like, we're just going to do whatever crazy idea we come up with? How did that come about?
Well, we go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, before Erin speaks on this, I think everybody was pretty shell-shocked, and I would want to say, if it wasn't for Erin being our leader, and saying, like, pushing all of us all the time, like, no, you don't get paid for parties, you get paid for creativity. So this is the time to be creative and push yourself and push yourself and push yourself. And, I know she's going to really speak on this, but that is because of her, that she really is the leader in that area of our company, and, makes us, go so far outside the box we can't even see it anymore. So that's thanks to her.
Thanks, Katie.
Yeah.
Well, it was definitely hard because we all like what we do, and we all like parties, and that's our safety net, and that's our bread and butter, and that's our passion. It's all of the above. And so now, with that stripped from us, we were forced to try and figure out. Our first thought was, how can we get it back? How can we make it safe for people? And so, probably after like 2 to 3 weeks or so, we kind of started the dialogue. Like, what can we do to make it safe to get events back? How can we deliver peace of mind to people, and what products can we offer? And then we just started brainstorming from there. And we, of course, we're making face shields and we're sewing gowns, but on the more fun side, then we have, masks with straw holes, and they have a little magnet, you put over the hole, to seal it up again. So those are great, because that actually, when people were talking about, on some of the calls we've been on, people were talking about, events at hotels and what they were going to look like. Well, the two things that were not present in anything that they were talking about was the cocktail hour and the dance floor, which for us are, and I'm sure for most, are two of the more fun aspects of the party. So sure, they have the tables, 50 million feet apart, and that's great. And there's 2 of you or 4 of you sitting at the table, and that's great because it's all within the regulations, et cetera. But do you really want to go to that party? Is that something you're going to look forward to? So then we started creating things that would make that better. And like I said, we started with the cocktail party, and we started with the dance floor, and then we kind of moved our way through the party. And for the cocktail party, the masks with the straw holes are brilliant, because so everybody's going to be, we're all going to be, have all these conversations about the COVID measurements, and we're going to disinfect the stuff on our trucks, and we're going to come in and everybody's going to be tested or whatever. And that's all great. But then you mean to tell me that the first person that goes to take a drink at the bar, they pull their mask down, and all that is just defunct at that point, so that just seemed crazy. So now we have the masks with the straw holes that are cover-upable, and they're by far and away the most comfortable mask that any of us have ever worn. So it's like it's got both things. And then we moved on to the bumper tables, which were just crazy fun and silly. But, that was like, how can you get people, to have socially distant cocktails and still have fun and be in a party atmosphere? So that was kind of that one. And then we moved on to the shields for the tables, which are like plexiglass dividers that quadrant off the table into like 4 or 6 or 8 spaces or whatever you need it to be. And so now you can have 8 people at the table and still have protection and, have a conversation and just have a better feel. So initially it was all based on getting events back, saving events, making it so that people could so that people could come in. And then we moved on, and honestly, the best thing that we have, I think, the best thing that makes you feel the safest is the air scrubbers. And the air scrubbers are just like this super high powered air purifier with this weird technology that, you know, changes the humidity in the air to, you know, way more than you want to know, but changes it to hydrogen peroxide vapor. So it kills the particles in the air, it kills the particles on the surfaces. And that to me is like, that is a game changer for events, because you bring that in, you run it for 2 hours before the party. Now you've done what a lot of the protocols and things we're calling for in terms of disinfecting. Anybody that's come into that room, any vendor, anything, whatever, we're all in the same playing field. We're turning over to the planner a clean room. Now, of course, you know, if your guests come in and they have COVID, you know, I can't help it if you sneeze on the person next to you, you know, no piece of equipment we can bring in would help. But like, that's huge to know that you're coming in clean, you know. And so, you know, and so then we've just been churning out some other things and trying to envision other things. And we've been working on virtual events and hybrid events and just trying to add the fun back into all this stuff, because sure, you know, like everything can happen virtually, but do you want to tune in? Do you want to stay on for 3 hours? What's going to keep you? What's going to make it great? You know, so we've been spending a lot of time on that. And Katie's got a whole lineup for creative ideas for nonprofit events. So, you know, that are other than a Zoom and other than a virtual. So we've been fleshing that out.
That's really fascinating, actually, to hear kind of what you guys are thinking and, you know, what you're developing. And as I mean, if you were to put me in the room when that is happening, what does that look like? I mean, what is the creative process, sort of? Are you just kind of throwing ideas out? Is that one person that's sitting alone with an open notebook? What is that kind of, is it different for everyone?
I mean, it usually involves me calling Katie and say, look, don't say no yet. Don't say no. But how about this? And then she'd be like, well, and then she makes my idea better. And then I take it to some other people, try it out on them. And then if everybody thinks it's a good idea, then we, you know, try and take it to the next level.
That's fun. That's really interesting. So let's see, looking forward to the future. Do you guys have any thoughts on, you know, I know this is a hard question to answer, but, you know, where the future of the business is and how you see it changing fundamentally, and, you know, how you guys think you might be able to adapt to that?
Well, Erin keeps saying that after the Spanish flu came the Roaring 20s. So we're going with that. We're going with that one. And we're hoping that, you know, everything comes back. Do I think it will be different? Yeah, I do. I also think it could go either way. It could go crazy right away. It could start slower and then build up. I do think there will be a point where we will get back to what we do, but I think we've all learned some things during this time. So maybe in the future that our air scrubbers will be at events just to make sure it's clean before the event starts or whatever. But you know, I think that people, there'll be less handshakes and all that kind of stuff. So you'll be doing things so that people can be connected. But people, like, live events are important. They, you know, I haven't talked to anybody who is, you know, down with being on Zoom for hours. You know, they want to be, they want to see each other in person. I recently did an outdoor dining room for a restaurant, and it was a pretty big installation, and it actually seats 150 at once, and made it very socially distant and very safe. And the opening night, the owners, you know, wanted me to come to dinner there because I'd been working on it for 2 full weeks, setting it up. And I texted all my friends last minute, and they all said yes. And we'd all been quarantined, and we had a, you know, table of 10 for dinner that night, because people were just dying to get out and see each other. And I think that experiential marketing, we've already been doing that a lot in our time at Revolution. You know, we're a very creative company, and that's what you need to be in order to produce that. And I think that is going to be a big thing in the future, to how to maybe not have such a big event, and maybe your budget doesn't change, but that but how are you reaching your clients on the corporate side? But I think social parties, I think they will go back to normal, because the fact is you want who you want at your wedding. You want who you want at your bar mitzvah. You're not going to be like, well, I can only have 150. I mean, we might have to be like that for a little while, but I think after we have a vaccine, people are going to be, right back to where we were, personally.
Yeah. Erin, any thoughts there?
Well, I think, out of the bad comes the good. And I know that all of us, we will be much more grateful and thankful that we get to continue in our chosen professions that we love, and we actually get to do it again. We will have had a long time to recharge and regroup. And I promise you that we will come out lean and mean, but more creative than ever.
Yeah, I'm with you, and I really love going to parties and photographing parties. It's just in my soul. It's in kind of, what I love, and it's clear that that's the same for you guys. And I'm just so inspired by all your creativity and hard work, and I couldn't be more thankful for having you both here today to join us and just share. I think, hearing all of this from you guys is encouraging for so many people, and I encourage you guys to continue to just put out all that creative and amazing stuff. We'll all be watching. So thank you so much for joining us. And
thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.